What it do? What it do? Give some people some time to enter the chat. Y'all see the description. I don't think a lot of people really is paying attention like what's going on in the world right now. You know what I mean? Me, I've been paying attention to before the Iran and America, you know what I mean? Even before Ukraine and Russia, you feel me? But a lot of us, I think that we really just living in a bubble day for day, like not really realizing that even before Iran and Israel and had their difference, and then we got involved because our connection is more with Israel because Iran always hated America. I don't think people realize what's really going on as far as that we really been at war for real. You know what I mean? Like, I know reality TV and people got their favorite shows and shit like that, but shit is in the air right now. You know what I mean? Like really, like tensions is like real high right now. And then I be reading the comments. You know what I mean? It be sounding like people. You'll have people talking about some America ain't ready for China and all this shit. Like, and they from America. Like, it'd be weird as hell. Like, why is you rooting basically for another country? And in the comments feeling like, oh man, China can't F with us. You know what I mean? Like, America better fall back when it comes to them. Listen, I don't give a fuck what America represent to Americans, which is me too. We the most powerful, like, country. I know there's other countries out there who are a threat too, but I ain't never finna put no other country over the country I'm in when it comes to some shit hitting the fan. I know this live right here gonna be a little sensitive to sensitive ears, you know what I mean? But it's not about who the president and about who you really don't like as far as your politics and shit like that. It's about, are you really aware of what's going on? You know what I mean? We know the news tell lies, you know what I mean, and shit like that, but we ain't speaking from a lies point of view. We speaking like, are you consciously aware of what's going on right now? Like, like, I know people don't want to think like this, but like shit can hit the fan anywhere. You know what I mean? Any state, you know what I mean? It kind of go back to when I was saying about 30 lives ago, how I'm from, I never heard of it. I don't even want to say it wrong, Semadith or something. But hit that like button, I appreciate you. He said, say it. Sacramadic, I don't know. Sac medic, okay. And my boy broke it down twice. He spelled it for me twice in the comments. I appreciate you too. But yeah, appreciate you too. Hit that like button. But yeah, the shit that's going on in the world right now, like wherever you from, I'm from Sac, right? Wherever you from in the world right now, and this is not like a stereotype conversation, you know what I mean? We just talk about safety and people being aware of what's really going on right now, you know what I mean? I had said this about 30 lives ago. You know what I mean? Like right now, this ain't really the time to be really just want to experiment and go to these different countries and shit like that. I'm safe. I have my blunt. Hey, Daniel 937, man. Make sure you subscribe and set your notification, man. Me and you my type of guy. But like 30 lives ago, I had said on here how Right now ain't the time to be wanting to fulfill your fantasies, talking about you want to go to these different countries and shit like that. I come from the lands behind the wall. Right now ain't the time. You know what I mean? Like the way the world is and the shit that's going on, if I'm gonna go out of town or be somewhere, it's gonna be within my range. Like if I'm from Milwaukee and I go out of town to, let's say, Chicago, I don't know, hell, even LA. I'm in America, I'm in what I know versus me going way to another country and they on some no American can leave type shit. The name of my country there is. So, like, I ain't trying to get caught up in that, and I wouldn't want nobody else to get caught up in that. You know what I mean? Like, you going somewhere trying to create memories and shit, and then they tell you no American can leave because of what's going on in the world right now, or they want to hold you hostage. There's a lot of cities out there, a lot of countries and states out there who just don't like Americans. Like they ain't got nothing to do with race or nothing like that. You know what I mean? Like they just don't like Americans, and we pay for the sins of what people who quote unquote supposed to run the country have done and did through history. You know what I mean? Through the course of times. You know what I mean? So, what's going on right now is not really shocking because if you read the good book, all of this is in the good book. And if you know what I mean by the good book, you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It's all in there. That these days was coming and all of that. You know what I mean? So a lot of us shouldn't even really be shocked for real. You know? For real, this was going to happen with or without the president that we got now. It was going to happen regardless. You know what I mean? Like everything was written before time, you know what I mean? As far as on how everything was going to play out, you know what I mean? But I do feel like a lot of us is walking around like don't know what's really going on as far as not really paying attention to keeping tabs on what's going on. You know what I mean? You got to be a student of life, not just a student of what always drives your interest. The things that don't drive your interest be the best things that you need to be paying attention to. Like it shouldn't be a weird feeling to always go out of routine instead of always following a routine. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't scared to touch or try something that I've never touched or tried before. You know what I mean? So, right now, I'm just sitting around and I'm thinking, I'm like, a lot of people just really, either they're oblivious or they just really act like they don't know what's going on or they just don't keep tabs on it because they feel like they're not feeling the effects of what's going on. A lot of people don't like to feel a certain kind of way about things until they feel the effects of it. Now you want to boycott, you want to protest, you want to, you know what I mean, pay attention now because now it's happening to you. Study already paying attention that these things are going on and it's a possibility that it can happen to you. You know what I mean? Like, we in the era, we in a time now where information, man, you know what I mean? You could get access to it just like that within the blink of an eye. Study back when I was growing up, if you didn't have a computer, you literally had to go to a library, get on a computer, or look it up and read and find out what you need to know about what's going on. We all know the news ain't accurate, you know what I mean? That's why you do your own investigation on things, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, I know we done all been through several different presidents, but with this situation that we're in right now, people need to really pay attention to it. Even if you say you're not a news person, you don't read newspapers, You need to start reading them now, man. You know what I mean? Because it's different conversation levels for different people. You know what I mean? Like, I believe in, like, you always want to be well rounded on what's going on in life and what's going on, period. That way, when somebody's having a convo, and if they try to include you in on it, or if you is included on it, you know what's going on instead of just listening and trying to figure out what's going on. You know what I mean? When I was in going to school and shit, I was telling my son this shit. Like, history was like my favorite subject. You know what I mean? I always been intrigued and just like reading and shit like that. And that shit comes from when I was young. You know what I mean? My mom would like have us read newspapers and, you know what I mean, even read the Bible, just read shit to help our vocabulary. A lot of people, when you're young, when you kind of, I don't feel like reading, or you get mad that your parents make you read and shit like that. But in reality, it actually betters your vocabulary. You know what I mean? Like, especially with talking and shit like that. Like, so like, don't always get mad if your parents ask you to read or tell you to read like 30 minutes or an hour out of the day, because down the road, you know what I mean, it really will help you out as far as your vocabulary and understanding a lot of things. You know what I mean? So you don't want to be like Floyd, you know what I mean, illiterate to shit, and hopefully you counting on your surroundings, you know what I mean, to make sure your business affairs is intact, you know what I mean? You need to keep an eye on your own shit, you know what I mean, and make sure your own business is intact and shit like that. Not always rely on people to do things for you because you paying them, you know what I mean? So Iran is a known country that has, you know what I mean, never liked America, you know what I mean? And, you know, everybody got their reasons of why they don't like somebody and why that somebody don't like them, you know what I mean? And the time we living in, even if you don't agree with the things that going on, you kind of need somebody right now, as far as the way the world is turning, who gonna either stand up or fold as far as other countries. You know what I mean? This ain't the time right now to be pacifying other countries, meaning like if we had the two people who just tried to run and win, they probably would allow people to feel like they're in control of the situation. You know what I mean? And certain people, man, you got to bump head for head with, you know what I mean? To get them to understand that, you know what I mean? Our pain is the same, you know what I mean? You think you got a high tolerance for pain. I might have a high tolerance too. So, you know what I mean? At this moment, you know what I mean? We ain't got time to be trying to be a little bit too political, as far as sometimes talking don't always do what it need to do. Sometimes things got to happen, you know what I mean? Whether you don't like it or that person don't like you, you know what I mean? Sometimes talking don't get you nowhere because a person to feel like that's all you do is talk. You know what I mean? Sometimes actions got to be shown, you know what I mean? Like I said, I just want our people, as far as the people who are in the world, not just an American, not just Hispanics or Ukrainian, just anywhere, us as people, because this don't come with a race or a stereotype. We just need to be conscious and aware of like what's going on. You know what I mean? A lot of us want to be prepared when they tell us a storm or some shit coming, and then now you want to go buy up all the ramen noodles and cup soups and bottles of waters and all that shit right there. You know what I mean? Like, we want to be preparing for shit, like when we hear that it's finna hit the fan or some shit like that. All in Walmart buying all the goddamn blankets and You know what I mean? Coolers and everything and shit like that. One thing about America, right? And I was talking to my OG. As you see, this baby fresh too. Try again. No. But damn this baby. Nah, some people just be drinking shit for like the commercial. They don't even really little sips. Now I was really thirsty, but this right here, good water for you, man. Best ever, $5, man. Yeah, Gucci of waters. But a lot of us want to tap in and tune in and shit like when we see it hit the fan, like, oh man, why they, you know what I mean, blowing down over here and doing all this and doing all of that. You gotta pay attention, you gotta know what's going on. Everything can't be Instagram, reality TV, niggas or females, you know what I mean? You gotta know what's going on worldwide, dog. You know what I mean? You can't use the excuse that I'm a street nigga type shit. Like you wanna know, you wanna be aware, you know what I mean? You could talk to your kids about the shit or whatever. Now, moving on from that, Doc Rivers, you can see he was in the description too. Doc Rivers, I might have forgot to put his name in the description. Y'all see his picture, but Doc Rivers, right? He played in the NBA when Jordan played, you know what I mean? You know, he made it to the NBA, so he had to have some form of skill, even though you let JJ Redick tell it, dudes who played basically from like certain parts of the 90s and back was just plumbers and drunks and all type of shit, druggies, whatever. But Doc Rivers played back then or whatever, you know what I mean? He played when Jordan was around, you know what I mean? And then everybody know once he got done playing, he moved over to coaching. And I think the Celtics won, I don't know if it was 08 or 09 or whatever. You know what I mean? He won a ring, one ring. You know what I mean? They went back to the playoffs. I think they went to the Eastern Conference Final, but they got knocked out. But he had, I guess you could say, success with the Celtics, you know what I mean? But then after that, you know what I mean, that fizzled on out or whatever. Then he went to the Clippers, you know what I mean? The Clippers, that's when they had Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, Crawford. He had his son over there, the list goes on. And Doc and them, you know, had expectations, you know what I'm saying? And for some reason, his teams can't never just get past like the first or second round, you know what I mean? Like, you know, the Clippers was cool, you know what I mean? What they was known as Lob City, you know what I mean? It was known as Lob City, you know what I mean? So, you know, regular season they was cool, you know what I mean? But it seemed like when it come to playoffs, they just couldn't get past the hump. And that lasted for years on top of years on top of years as far as Doc's reputation, you know what I mean? Like, to me, if you ask me, I feel like the nigga finessed the NBA. Like, anytime you could basically have success with one team, but you could be a general manager. You was coaching the Sixers. I even think he was in Orlando or some shit like that one time. Like, you still getting a job. So you can't knock the hustle of someone who, to me, it just don't got a successful history of coaching. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, he finessed the fuck out the NBA. You know what I mean? Like I said, you can't knock the hustle, but when he took over the Milwaukee Bucks, and I didn't understand why they did some stupid shit. Like they was like 30-13 with the coach they had. I think the coach that they had was the same coach that they got a ring with and all that shit. You know what I mean? So I didn't understand why they fired him. And then next thing you know, they had the little backup coach coaching for a little bit. Then next thing you know, they put Doc Rivers in, and then it just went haywire. It just even went worse type shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I say, I respect his hustle, but if I'm an NBA owner of a franchise, I'm not hiring Doc. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to bash Doc Rivers or nothing like that, but I'm not hiring you. You know what I mean? Because to me, you just not a good coach. You know what I mean? Like I say, and then when you won with the Celtics, you had Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, uh, Kevin Garnett. Who else, man? I can't remember. You had all type of niggas on that team. You know what I mean? You had a solid team, and then a lot of players coach themselves. Like, if you got a good team that got good chemistry and shit like that or whatever, the chemistry amongst the players is what's going to be the success. You know what I mean? Not just the coach all the time. Like, the players got to understand each other. You know what I mean? Like, the players got to know each other vibe, but that comes from hanging out, having dinners. You know what I mean? Motherfuckers might share the same hotel room, hang out, you know what I mean, with each other when they ain't on basketball time. You know what I mean? So that's why when a lot of people try to clown LeBron early on in his career, how he was like always trying to kind of bond with teams and shit like that, because that's very important. Like, certain players play like that. Like Shadur Sanders, he one of them players. He play like that where like he really want to get a feel of his teammates. You know what I mean? And and have a bond. You know what I mean? Some people like that just helps them play better. You know what I mean? But Doc Rivers, to me, I respect the hustle and shit like that or whatever. And he got his son in the league. You know what I mean? And like I say, a lot of people made a big deal out of LeBron getting Bron in the league. But man, listen, since the beginning of time, if you a father and you either coach or you own something and you got a son that's coming of age, you know what I mean? I don't know no parent who wouldn't want their kid involved. You feel me? Even if they're not coaching, they might just be owning a franchise, but their son play. You know what I mean? So people need to, quit tripping a little bit. You know what I mean? If Jordan felt like his kid could be successful and had hype and buzz and all that, you know what I mean? If he could pull strings. Matter of fact, you ain't even got to be pulling strings for your kids to be in the NBA. Like, if you got kids and you rich in general, just anyway, you own a construction business, you gonna have your kids in there somewhere, you feel me? Because you know you ain't gonna be around forever. You know what I mean? So it ain't just with sports. That's naturally a genetic thing as far as business owners who have kids. You know what I mean? That's why back when I was growing up, going to work with your parents was so important. Like, when they would let you, I forgot what they would call it, like where that day you can miss school and you won't be counted absent, you can go to work with your parents and shit like that. That was very important, you know what I mean? Because you get to see what your parents do, you know what I mean? And see if you may want to follow that lane or do your own thing, you know what I mean? So LeBron wasn't the first person to do that, you know what I mean? It's just like I say, nowadays with everybody having phones and everybody got their own outlets and you see shit yourself and you can talk about it and put it out there, it just seemed like he like the first. But in reality, coaches, owners of NFL teams, that's just a way of life in general, you know what I mean? Like, if you on a hula hoop team and you know you got a niece who's the best hula hooper ever, you know what I mean? It's only right that, you know what I mean, if you're smart, you're gonna snatch her up before you allow somebody else to snatch her up, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, man, but Doc Rivers, to me, his only success was the Celtics. He's had good season records with the Clippers and shit like that or whatever. And then he tried to go down to the Sixers. He was with Embiid, and I think he was trying to turn Embiid into a Kevin Durant, but you can't. Kevin Garnett, sorry about that, Kevin Garnett. But everybody can't be Garnett. Like what was in Garnett is not inside Embiid. You know what I mean? So that only lasted a little bit of time, and then he left from that, and then he went back. He went to where he went now, which is Milwaukee. You know what I mean? So to me, like I said, he been finessing for millions. I respect the hustle. You know what I mean? But if you was to say a good coach to me, no, I'll say he coached a good team and he has had a lot of opportunities as far as players. You know what I mean? Like that he's came across. You know what I mean? Like he's had that, but great coach, top five and shit like that. No, not even top 10. He been riding off that one ring that he won, and I ain't gonna lie, but that's some hella finessing. You know what I mean? Because before anybody scouts you out, whether you coach the team and the owner or whoever saying they want, you know what I mean? I don't know. They see some shit maybe that us armchair people who just sit at the crib and watch this shit see. Maybe we don't see the same thing because I know if I'm an owner, I'm not hiring no Doc Rivers. You know what I mean? Like I said, yeah, he played the game and all that shit or whatever. He coached and won a ring with Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and the list goes on. But everything after that is just smoke and mirrors. You know what I mean? For real. So, yeah, Doc Rivers, man, he decided to step down. He pulled a Mike Tomlin. You know what I mean? He decided to step down himself. You know what I mean? I know it's saying fired, but he decided to step down himself because chemistry is everything. Evidently, and then Milwaukee got to take some blame too because y'all allowed Gunners to run y'all franchise. At one point, the nigga had his brothers on the team, and y'all had Chris Middleton or some shit like that. Like y'all had some solid players around, and y'all just let them go. Drew Holiday, I think. Like y'all had some solid players, you know what I mean? And y'all just let them go, you know what I mean? So, I mean, but I think that was before Doc though. So, but yeah, Doc to me, I don't know, man. He's like a dark cloud or some shit, like, you know what I mean? But me personally, I be feeling like, man, a lot of y'all dudes done made enough money, man. It's like, how much is enough? It's like, God, man, these niggas be selfish, bro. Like, it's like, and then they talk this family shit, like, well, I missed out so much time. When you get to the point like where you done coach like 6, 7 different teams type shit, kind of like how they do them NBA niggas, like just for example, Shaq is my nigga. I'm just using him for example. But like when you get to going to the Cavs and then Celtics and Phoenix, like you just get to go on all these different teams and shit like that. It's like it's time to like, all right, let me hang it up. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to tarnish my shit with all of this. I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, go on and fall back, and that's what Doc need to do. Go on and fall back. You know what I mean? And do the grandfather thing and the shit like you said you was gonna do, and just chill. Coaching, that shit is done for. Your son is a commentator. You know what I mean? He ain't even playing. So yeah, Doc Rivers, man, we appreciate you stepping down, turn into a real civilian man, and stay the fuck out the league. You know what I mean? But other than that, I ain't been talking about my Lakers. You know what I mean? I really, it's weird when you a fan of a team, right? You know what I mean? I feel like I don't even want to jinx these niggas and get to talk about them. So it's more like I feel like if I don't talk about them, you know what I mean? But I gotta remind new viewers and people who don't know that I am Lakers. You feel me? But I don't want to talk about them because I don't want to be jinxing shit. So it's like I'd rather act like they don't exist. And then that way, if it play out how I want, I ain't really too crushed about it. You know what I mean? Even though Luca and A are out now, I did see a news clip today saying Luca's supposed to return at some point, which is I don't feel he should really rush that, like, cause they playing Houston in the first round. Not that Houston not a threat, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like just kind of chill. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Now, if they play in Houston and they get to some shit like uh 3-0 type shit or whatever, or something like that. Yeah. We need you to come back, bro. Yeah, we 0-3. They got us by 3. You feel me? But you know, I know LeBron ain't the old LeBron and shit like that, but like certain teams, he could kind of handle the load a little bit. So, like I say, like let's not rush you back. You know what I mean? Let's really just see how the first 2 games really play out. Really, the first 2 games play out, and that'll really show you if you need to put the hero cape on and you know what I mean, and come on back. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, teams, we need you because, and we need AR Austin Rivers too because the more snipers we have and killers, uh, you know what I mean. They have to. Oh, we gotta watch him. Oh, we gotta watch him. Oh, damn, we gotta watch him. You know what I mean? They know they could just focus in on LeBron, and you can't really win no ring like that. You need like 2 other people to where they know, okay, we watching him, but then he could throw it to him, and then if we get on him, then he could throw it to him, and then he could throw it to the secret snipers that's on the team. So, um, yeah, lad, we need you back, but let's not really rush the process and shit like that. You know what I mean? But like I said, yeah, man, y'all see the description. Y'all better wake up out there. You know what I mean? Everything I know, you got niggas getting money, living fast. You know what I mean? You got dudes living for the moment and all of that. But it's kind of like if y'all ain't gonna pay attention and y'all will watch Tribe Gang TV, it's on me to inform you and to have conversations that we might not normally touch on, which is the description and the topic that I decided to touch on today, as far as on like is people really aware of like what's going on in the world, you know what I mean? A lot of us be so caught up in life, and not realizing, man, you know what I mean? Shit is in the air, you know what I mean? You got to pay attention and know what's going on. You know what I mean? Sometimes when we got downtime, it don't hurt to just go on CNN on YouTube or something like that, or even Google it or some shit like that. Like you ain't got to spend an hour out your day, man. Sometimes just 10 minutes or just Googling something like, damn, let me see what's going on. You know what I mean? And you in the world, you know what I mean? You know, you want to, you know what I mean, have a broad mind frame of thinking on things. You know what I mean? You can't have the mind the size of a matchbox. You know what I mean? So jump out the gate. You know what I mean? Broaden your horizon. You know what I mean? On your information and all that shit. So y'all already know what it is, man. Tribe Gang TV. Share this video. Like, comment. Go to my YouTube post. Check for updates. You know what I mean? Go check out that merch. You know what I mean? Facebook G Rio Benji. You know what I mean? Instagram G Rio Benji. You know what I mean? Subscribe to your boy, like I say. Look forward to it, man. You know what I mean? Stay aware, stay alert. You know what I mean? And information is very important out there, man. So salute. Y'all hold it down. Try Gang TV. We out.